Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. Another year has flown past and I thought it would be great to have a look back at what's being done around the place and at how the plants and system is responding. I've built trellises, improved swales, built new gardens and done lots of planting out. Join me today for a walking tour of the property and a review of the 2023 year. We're going to start our tour today on my roadside swale. It's the swale that gets the water in off the roadway and then feeds it into the dam. Now I did have an issue with it, and that is there was water draining from a broken pipe into my little gully. So I've installed a swivel pipe. But this year it really hasn't rained enough to get the swale really full, so I haven't felt the need to sort of tip my swivel pipe to empty any water out and into the gully. The swivel pipe is really doing its job. Normally all this water would have already drained down my gully, but it's holding it and then feeding it nicely into the dam. At the dam end of the swale there is a bit of a lip here, so it does hold water to sink it in and under this berm for the trees, to hydrate the trees and the paddock beyond. But when there's lots of rain and the water collects sort of higher than that lip, it feeds off into the dam. So it sort of holds the water, slows the water and gets the sediment sinking, so there's cleaner water heading off into storage. With the swivel pipe closed off, there's less water that actually heads off down my gully, but there's still plenty that heads in off the road to hydrate the gully, and there's still a little bit coming from a spring, but the spring from my olive tree grove changed. A couple of years ago I made the most of a spring that came out just here, and I built a little swale off it to feed some young olive trees that I was just getting going. But what I found this year is the spring actually moved a few metres down my gully, and when it's raining a lot it tends to come out right down here, which actually misses the whole swale that I built for my olive trees. Luckily, my olive trees are already established and they don't need that extra water to get them going. The trees along the road still get the benefits of wash off from the road surface, although with recent resurfacing, the water doesn't run off as effectively, so I might have to do some redirecting. Halfway along my roadside swale is where I've planted some Yacon. Back in May or June, I transplanted Yacon from my backyard, and I've got about a half success rate, 50% success rate on the tubers that I planted. With the warm weather, this plant has really started to take off, and I expect it just to keep going over summer. However, that's not the case here. These two sticks mark the spot where I put tubers in, but at this point there's no sign of Yacon, which is why it's best to put in quite a number of plants when you're planting into conditions like these. And closer to the dam is where I've had success with two more of the tubers. The plums, which I showed in a video during the week, are just starting to ripen now, so it won't be too much longer to wait for some of those. And as we come out of the roadside swale, we head on to my duck housing. Now I've got the two khaki Campbell ducks and Muscovy ducks. During the year I was able to harvest 9 of the Muscovies for meat, and they all give plenty of eggs. Unfortunately the fox got 9, and that was mostly during the daylight hours. And the only other ducks I lost were at night time when they wouldn't come in. The ducks that are housed in these housings are all safe. The fox hasn't got in the 3 years I've been keeping them like this. These are 3 little ducks that have just managed to get outside of their housing. They haven't found the dam as yet, but they're just getting confidence outside. And in here is a mama duck sitting on at least 2 little baby ducks. They were born on Christmas or early Boxing Day is when we saw them first. She still does have a couple of eggs there. I don't know whether they'll hatch or not, but she's got herself 2 beautiful little ducklings. And I do have 1 more duck sitting on about 8 eggs, but she's up near the chickens in the chicken brooder. We're heading off now to my bottom swale. Just here is 3 of my more recent plantings of olives. They're kind of getting inundated by grasses, but I did give them a good bit of mulch to kind of keep them from being totally buried, but I will have to get around here and give them a bit more mulch. Now during the year I did plant out a couple more avocados, which are here. And I erected some protection from the cows and also some frost netting over the top, which I will have to move since it's summer now and they need a little bit more sunshine. They're slowly getting going, which is good, but I think they just need a bit more sunshine. A couple more trees on my bottom swale that also needed frost protection were my macadamia trees, and they're both looking fantastic, although I do need to get in and get some of the weedy growth around them down, and again get the netting off the trees. Hi Miss Daisy. So here's the second avocado. You can kind of see why I need to get in there and clear around these little plants. Hey Mama Cow, how are you doing? Now just along here is the section of my swale that had a blowout in it. Now I don't mind that little lamb. That little lamb escapes all the time, but it doesn't go far from mum, so I'm not too worried about it. It might help to eat down some of these blackberries that are in the swale. But right here is the site of my blowout repair. And as you can see, the growth has covered up really well from what it was like to start with. Just over here, I've planted some vetiver grass to try and hold the soil in place, but it seems all the buttercup and grasses have beaten it to it, although that will still be great to get that going. This winter we didn't have that much rain and no water actually reached the end of this swale, so it didn't really test my blowout, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm kind of pleased we've got another year for it all to settle in, hold itself in place before it's challenged with some water. Just behind me here are the grazing crew, and we've had a fairly good year with them. I managed to put 1 steer and 6 sheep into the freezer, and I'm enjoying those now. During lambing season we had 7 new lambs, and last month we welcomed little Bella, a baby Dexter calf, into the world. And Star is going well, although we did have a scare with her. The second day after she gave birth, she came down with milk fever. So we had to get the vet out, but we got her going and she's happily looking after her beautiful little calf. I've had 2 sessions of chop and drop in my bottom swale. This robinia was chopped right off and it's regrown beautifully, as has lots of the acacia. That was chopped right down and it's all regrown. And I've also done a bit of clearing with the apple trees, though some of them could do with a little bit more clearing around them. While I have done quite a bit of chop and drop in this bottom swale, my macadamias and also my walnuts still need to be done. And in amongst it all, I've been adding in small little plants such as this patch of rhubarb. Just heading up now past the top swale, we come to my apiary. Just here are my 5 hives. They do need to have the grass cut down a bit, and I'll certainly get to that. But last year we got 85 kilos out of these hives, and that was actually out of 4 hives, so I'm expecting maybe a little bit more this year. Something that was really fantastic to get ticked off the list this year was the installation of this gate. I can access my Hayshed really easily now for hay deliveries, and I can also drive up to my bees. When the boxes are really heavy at harvest time, you do want your vehicle close by, and it just means I don't have to drive all over the pastures to get to them. There was just a little bit of drama with the bees being so close with the gate installation. I had to share my bee suits with my friends who are helping me with the gate install. It also means easier access to my compost bay here, and I'm going to build a second one during this year. These compost bays here are great for large animal remains. Now let's have a look at the top swale. One of the things I've been working on in my top swale is improving conditions for my avocado trees. So one of them's just in here. Let's go and have a look. Just sneaking in through all the undergrowth, we'll go past. This is an avocado tree that actually was chewed off by sheep, but then has regrown below the graft, and I'm just letting it get established because I figure you might as well make the most of a good root system, and who knows, I might be able to graft a good variety on top of that. And just down here is my avocado tree, which I did put in a little bit of time with. I might be able to open up the canopy a little bit more just to let some more sunshine in, because it's still quite shaded here. You do have to protect these plants in the early years from too much sun and too much frost, but I think we can afford to just take that down, and that should still be just early, sort of late morning, early afternoon sun, and then this robinia should provide the afternoon shade that it probably still needs. In this section of the top swale is where I dug out sort of about 10 centimetres, 4 inches or so, of the surface of the swale, because I found it just wasn't holding water evenly right along the swale. So by taking that down a little bit in this section meant that this area of the swale actually did hold some water, and the purpose of that is to hydrate the trees so they can get through a hot summer really well. Now there's still quite a bit of repair work to do for the surface of the swale where I've dug it out. Here I've got some hay that I put down at the time, but in some sections it's just degraded, and I really need to replace that. Further along in the swale I've cut lots of grasses, and each year you can keep piling those up, and in that way you build the soil. One of my main reasons for dealing with the swale and improving its water holding capacity is to help with my almond trees, which I did prune during the year, and I didn't prune all that well, and that was reflected in some of the comments I got. But I kind of pruned up high, not thinking that all the growth would be up here and nothing in the middle. I did find that with one of my plum trees as well. So I'm thinking that I will have to take these trees right down to here, just so that the growth's a bit lower and not way up there. And I probably need to do that fairly soon. If you've got some pruning expertise, I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. Should I be taking that out right now so that there's still some growing season left? Or should I just wait till the tree's dormant? This little tree, the slowest growing of them all, I've managed to be able to prune not too badly, I think. In one of my videos, I planted out some native edibles, and just here is one of them. It is getting a bit inundated with all the buttercups, so I'll have to come around and just give them some love. But it's got a bit of new growth on it. Once it gets a little bit bigger, these plants won't impact it so much. So a bit of TLC at the moment while they're getting going is what's needed. Now I had planted a lovely anise myrtle here, which is a licorice scented plant and really lovely, but my cow found that one. And on the same night, just down here, my cow also found the female Illawarra plum and took off a beautiful growing tip off this little plant, but didn't devour the whole thing. There's still some nice little young leaves down here, which were hiding in the buttercup, no doubt. And the male of the Illawarra plums is hiding down here. It did get actually the top taken off it too, but it's still got some good growth, and I think over summer that should take off a little bit more. And the other edible plants I planted that day is the strawberry gum, which is down near the dam, which is going quite well, and my 2 mountain peppers, which again are just sort of finding their way, but I think over the next year they will start to take off as well. Just in this section of the food forest, I've got 2 of the olive trees that I shaped during the year, and they're still being held down. Now, what I've learned is that you just leave those in place until they deteriorate, and by that time the tree should be holding its shape. But this tree has got some really lovely growth on it. There's no signs of flowers at this point. I still think it gets a little bit too much shade and not enough of the hot sun. But because I'm still building the soil here, I'm not too worried about it. If it gets a good amount of growth on it, then by the time I do take all the support trees down, open it up to full-on sun, it'll be nice and large, and when it does flower, it'll produce a really good crop. And this is the second olive tree. Again, putting on lots of fantastic growth. So once I get that canopy opened, I should be getting plenty of olives from these trees. Now, I might have stuffed up the pruning for my almond trees, but I think I did okay with my nectarine, my peaches and my apricots. They've all got fruit on them this year. Also fruiting down this end of the swale are my raspberry plants, which I planted about 12 months ago with plants that I got from a friend. I just planted out this whole area. On both sides the animals have access to it, so they should be able to contain the raspberries in this section, so that won't create a problem. But I think I'm going to be getting heaps of raspberries out of this patch. Now, something that I have been noticing, as my plants increase in size and the diversity also increases, so too does the number of bird species that I'm noticing around. This year I've seen 2 new species on the property, and that is a fairly rare fantail cuckoo, and also I was very excited to see that a sacred kingfisher pair had decided to breed here, and they've got their young. They mostly spend time by the creek, but the female has certainly enjoyed lots of worms from my garden. Now we're finished with the swales, let's head down into my zone 1 and 2 area, which is around the house and in the front garden vegetable patch. I managed to get in a few new trellises around the garden, some with the help of my nephew Trent. These ones around the house, which has got this beautiful grapevine on it, Trent put in for me. Just starting to reach the trellis now, and I'll be training it along sort of both ways. I do have 3 plants, and after a slow start with some of them, they're all managing to hang on and get going. And the other trellis that Trent helped me put in is this one here, which is going to be a fantastic support for my 2 kiwi plants. Now to the trellises that I built myself, and they're all in the veggie garden, starting with this one here, which has got my Purple King bean plant growing up it, and I'm sure I'll be harvesting soon. The larger trellis next to the beans has got the slower growing cucumber plants, and I have sort of let the team down by not really training this one too well at this point. But once it gets a bit more growth on it, it might be easier to string up. And so too with this little plant here, I'll certainly be getting that growing because I'd love to see cucumbers all the way up this trellis. My ladder trellis is currently being buried by a huge big, I think it's a butter pumpkin. And the smaller Jap variety is slowly making its way up this second trellis. And just behind us here is the straight mesh trellis that I put up. And that one's currently got beans taking over it. The 6th veggie garden trellis is this arch trellis here with the gate in the middle of it. And that has a Turk's turban pumpkin growing up it, as well as some snow peas and some bush shelling peas. Something that I was really pleased to get done during the year was finishing off the garden beds. In this section here, I covered the grasses with cardboard and put on compost and wood chips for the paths. But I do have a bit of an issue with running grasses in this area. For the bed where I've currently got onions growing, I did dig out the running grasses, but I thought I'll trial without doing that for this section. And I do have areas where the grasses have just broken through and they're already starting to run across the pathways. Now, I did find that with the cardboard that the running grasses would just keep running under the cardboard until they found weak spots and could pop out of it. So I think probably I will have to just do patches at a time and dig it, and then do my cardboard compost and the wood chips again, just to really get on top of it. As this garden is maturing, it's producing a lot of food. It's being enjoyed fresh or grabbed from the pantry or freezer, having been preserved. It's been shared with friends and neighbours and members of the community. I'm proud that my garden is producing quality organic vegetables grown in a way that is not opposing nature, but beautifully in sync with her. Fresh, beautiful, colourful food is not all that this garden has produced. It's grown an abundance of vibrant flowers and volunteer plants that grow more food or flowers, or can be dug up for gifts. I'm confident that next year this garden will continue to increase in its abundance. At the start of 2023, I published a list of plans that I hope to achieve during the year. Now, you've seen some of those plans be realised in this video today, but about half of them didn't quite make it. They just didn't hit the top of the priority list. And it's about getting the things done that move the system along sort of as you see it. Now, I will be putting them on the 2024 list, so hopefully they'll get done next year. But it's all about really meeting my needs and reducing my impact on the world around me. And if I'm doing that, well, I think I'm doing a good enough job. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you have, please consider sharing it with family and friends who might also value the content. Also, hit the like button. The big thumbs up helps get my videos out to more people as well. I enjoy making content and reading the comments of people who have been inspired or have learnt something new. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic 2024, and bye for now.